Hello, it's me, Jess. Welcome to my channel. I'm here with another channeled message. This is a specific message. It might resonate with you, it might not. Okay, so immediately when I'm tapping into this energy, I feel a little bit trepidatious because it's like I don't know how this message is going to land with you, because I just get the sense that this message could land in different ways for different people depending on different things, which is probably true for every message I bring forward. It's just that this message has tower energy in it. And to be fair, it's not the message really that has the tower energy in it. For those of you that this message is for, there's definitely something going on in your life in the background here that has this tower energy. We're just going to talk about it here in this message. We're going to process it. And for some of you, that I can sense that it might be a very sensitive thing or very raw or very vulnerable. But for others of you, I feel like it's going to be like kind of an opposite experience where it's very freeing or it's very liberating. So I'm just going to try to be very intentional and very mindful and cautious in the way that I am tapping in here to this energy. So the situation that I'm picking up on is extremely karmic. There was like a karmic time period is what I'm getting. And it feels to me like it's been bookended by tower moments. So whatever this current tower moment energy is in your current situation, I feel like it's connected to your past, but not just that. I just heard your deep past. And it's actually connecting to a couple of different moments in time. So for some of you, this goes all the way back to childhood. Take this how it resonates. You might need to do a little bit of exploring within yourself, like consideration of where this is linked back to. But I can see that this links to your deep past. And in your deep past, there was also a tower moment, something sudden, something shocking. And it hit you like in the heart space, in some kind of space that was very raw. And you felt fear is what I'm getting. So you felt some kind of fear about losing something, about not being good enough, and it linked somehow to insecurity, and it brought that to the surface. And it was meant to. This was a very karmic moment, whatever this was here in the past. And in that karmic moment in your past where you felt this kind of insecurity, there's a question that hangs over that moment, and it's a very karmic question where it's kind of asking you, okay, who are you? Who do you want to be? What do you value? What will you do next? How will you handle this feeling? And the answer to that question and how directly and consciously it is dealt with, however, even if you deal with this in an unconscious way, like however you respond to that question in this moment is very karmic. It plays quite a bearing on how the rest of your life kind of unfolds. This very much feels like a crossroads moment to me. And it feels like time has gone by with you making your decision and living out your decision. And if people struggled with making that decision, that's where I feel like this new tower moment is probably very catastrophic. And there's this sense of like pressure and time and sunken cost fallacy that's like being immediately dismantled with some kind of swift truth or some kind of swift action, something here where this is all kind of being dismantled all at once, and it's probably a lot to deal with. There's another group here though where I felt like dealt with it probably very consciously, felt the pain immediately, maybe even for a long period of time. And so this new tower moment that's coming in the present is some kind of information epiphany that's very liberating and very freeing. And maybe very validating and very reassuring. And that's what I want to kind of dip into, like these different experiences. So let's talk about this this more positive path here really quick, because there's less to kind of go into. So well, let me say this. I feel like these tower moments both in the past and currently somehow were, I don't want to say that they were caused, but it's like they were ignited by some kind of third party, some kind of, it's like the energy of triangulation or competition, comparison, some version of that where it's like, oh, wait a second. It's like something kind of comes out of the blue and it's this like, and I feel like there's more than one person, because this feels to me like it's a third party situation or there's a group situation that's kind of involved here. So what you need to know about this is that you weren't the only one experiencing a tower moment. Like everybody here, it was like a chain reaction, and they were all, people were experiencing tower moments here in the past, and it was all, I think, around this insecurity, and but in different ways. And there's a truth here that kind of needs to be uncovered. I don't know, something like that. Now, they're saying that this is a very human thing, like whatever went on here, because we are social creatures, but we're also individual. And so that begs the question of how do we fit into the group, but how do we also distinguish ourselves in the group? And that's a very pertinent question to each one of us. How do we distinguish ourselves in and of our peers. And that energy of distinguishing ourselves is a very nuanced energy, because if you're doing it right and you're taking into consideration other people and other people's feelings, but you're also trying to stand out or make yourself useful or, desirable in some way. But I think going down a negative path here, this question of, okay, well, I want to distinguish myself, can sour really quickly, and it can kind of go to the dark side, and it becomes, how am I going to win? And then somebody here smashes the nuance and the delicacy and the sensitivity of asking, how am I going to distinguish myself, but also be pro-social and cooperative? And it just turns into this competitive drive and this very destructive impulse. And I feel like that occurred here in some way. Either it occurred within you and it actually destroyed something very beautiful, could have destroyed a group, a friendship, a love interest, somebody else's self-esteem. You could have gone after somebody else's self-esteem in some way. And for some of you, you had that weaponized against you, and it probably was deeply painful because, like, you had your mouth open, you had your hand out, you had your heart open, you were very sensitive, you were trying to maybe distinguish yourself, but you weren't going to tip it over to competing. So I think for some, there was a third party that was brought in, and that's this healthier path where you took it straight to the chest. And to be honest, this is divine feminine energy. I think for most of you, this was like a divine feminine in this situation, whether that's you or whether that's somebody else. She took it just straight to the chest. She didn't argue with it. She didn't try to squirm out of it. Or, if she did go into a period of denial, it was like this questioning, but she'd always pull herself back out to reality. And she didn't tip over into like playing games or competition, but just took it, like I said, straight to the chest. So that's why I was saying this tower moment has pain in it. Whether the healthy way to deal with it is to deal with that pain head on in the past and to allow that to lead you to acceptance and possibly to some kind of action that could have cleared up some confusion. Because for some, there was confusion here that could have just been cleared up if someone took a more direct approach to something, but somebody didn't. Instead, they got very competitive and gnarly and destructive. So like I said, this divine feminine energy accepted it, looked at it very square, and it ties all of this together, right? Because this shared spiritual lesson that honestly everybody that's involved in this it has something to do with insecurity, distinguishing yourself, finding your place in the world, and something to do with the concept of best, and really relating to that, which I'll tie that in at the end of this reading. But I feel like this divine feminine was like, okay, I accept that I'm not the best. If this was like a romantic situation, it's like, okay, well, she's very beautiful. Of course you want to be with her. I totally understand that you'd want to be with her. I thought you were my person. I thought you liked me. I thought we had a thing. Apparently I misread something here. She just took that straight to the chest and grappled with it for quite a long time. But when one door closes, another one opens. And I feel like she really met this situation with a lot of strength, a lot of elegance, a lot of class, and a lot of grace. And she really watched her principles and she really watched her virtues here. And so she started to ask the question like, okay, well, who am I? What do I want? What's best for me? And I'm hearing she pursued her Venus. So it's, what do I find beautiful? What do I find harmonious? What am I interested in? And I actually think that these other people that were around, or this other person that was, that didn't try to distinguish themselves, but rather tried to compete and destroy. I think this person took jabs at this feminine. I think they were trying to make fun of her, because choosing to go this route and actually deal with her karma and actually wrestle with her feeling of insecurity head on, and not to try to outrun it through dissociation or delusion or by lowering herself in any way, I think meant that she had to go without something for a long period of time, go without support, go without status, go without comfort, something here. And she just had to put one foot in front of the other, but she followed her own heart and her own love. And I'm hearing Jesus in the Bible, that quote where he says, if you bring forth what is inside of you, it will save you. And if you don't, it will destroy you. And that is exactly this new karmic, this new tower moment here, like in the present, because I feel like for her, she brought forth what was within her, maybe even when nobody else believed in her. She didn't, even though like she wasn't chosen, or she was second best, or she wasn't treated kindly, she was degraded, or in some way, she had her own back and she said, well, I'm not wrong. And even though these people don't love me, somebody's going to love me. Even though these people don't think I'm beautiful or interesting, somebody's going to find that. And she followed her own Venus, her own passion. And isn't it funny about human beings? Like, we are social creatures. And sometimes, like, there are certain things that you might not get or you might not understand. But when you see someone else love it and when you see someone else pursue it and get it, it makes sense to you. You're like, okay, I see. It's not really my cup of tea. Or maybe you start to have an appreciation or an interest or a love for it. And I feel like that's what she's done. She's created her own value. Where I feel like these people from her past that took this, instead of trying to distinguish themselves in a healthy, well-rounded, pro-social way, instead they took that to be competitive and destructive. These people are fighting over scraps. They're not creating and producing their own value, which is it's like having a spiritual mission, right? Because to me, I think we're all here with God's energy within us, like that's the energy of the soul. And I think that God puts a beautiful, unique expression within each of us that we are supposed to bring out, and we're not all supposed to be the same. And so that's what she did. So this tower moment for her is, I think, realizing that she is loved and that she is found beautiful and that she is accepted, and that people do value her and they do value the thing that she values, whether this is a field of interest, her some kind of career field that nobody told her was going to be, prestigious or whatever. It's that energy is flipped around where she went without for so long, and now all of a sudden it's just this tower moment of like, hey, oh, you like me? Something here like that. And she's being celebrated and seen in her Venus energy. And that might actually be the finish line that is causing this tower moment here for these other people. And I think part for her, especially if this was in the realm of love, there could have been a masculine here that went down this competitive, destructive path, was horrible to her. And it's like realizing that I think he loves her, to be honest. And maybe that's part of the message I'm supposed to bring forward. It's like, this man thinks about you. His love for you has been enduring. He tried to tell himself that it wasn't love, or he tried to tell himself, like, I don't know, that he tried to diminish or reduce you or destroy you in some kind of way. And he thought that you were going to forever go away and that he was going to triumph over you. He viewed love as a threat, is what I'm hearing. So it was like he had to triumph over you. Maybe he thought that he would not be accepted for some reason. And it could be because he hangs out with party animals and they're like, what? You like love? You want a calm life? Like, that's stupid. It doesn't have to do with you specifically, And I think that's what you're realizing, is that you are actually very beautiful and you're very loving and you're worthy, etc. Right? So that's like the healthier path. And that's where this message is coming in to say, look, this has tower energy, but I think for you, it's very, like, for those of you who've gone down this path, it's very validating. It's very like, you felt like you wandered in the dark for so long, but things are starting to turn around and people are starting to get you and you're starting to be understood, or, okay, so that's the one version of this. Now, the other path that I think some of these people went down here is much more karmic, and it's built up over time. Like, there's this sense of pressure. So with this group, again, I feel like now, currently, this current tower moment is the one that really stings, because I feel like in the past you were trying to outrun it with this sense of competitiveness, with this sense of drama, with this sense of distraction, trying to win, trying to compete something. So it's like you did feel the pain in the past, or it threatened you, and you stuffed it down so you didn't feel it. You tried to numb out and you tried to run away from it in whatever way that was. I just heard Chasing Pavement, which is an Adele song, I'm pretty sure. But this current tower moment is the one that's really hurting, because it's like you're not allowed to outrun this anymore. You've got to actually face the truth and the reality. Like, it's an inner truth of how you feel about yourself that needs to be grappled with directly. It's a truth of the way you feel, right? And feelings are not facts. So I think for some of you, it's like, I'm insecure, I'm second best, I'm never going to have this, or, and that is a feeling that you need to deal with directly, but I'm not saying it's the truth. And I think if you grapple with it head on, you might realize that it's not the truth, but it's like you can't run from it anymore. So whatever this tower moment is, I feel like it's just struck you like right in the heart. And it feels, I'm seeing like a shard of like glass just go right through the heart space, which to me, it's like it hit you in a place that was very tender, very vulnerable, very sensitive, and very raw. But I am supposed to tell you that this is not heart energy. Like, this pain that you're feeling. And I'm not telling you that to diminish it in any way. I'm just, because I'm seeing this like bright ball of like soul energy. It's a ball, right? And that's like your soul. And I'm seeing it covered in skin. I'm seeing a skin ball. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. No, but I am. And so that to me, because we are spiritual beings that are having a physical experience, right? And that means something. That means our soul comes here to have a physical experience, to have a physical body, to experience limitation, to be good at some things and not good at other things, to have, whatever, to have this experience, in order that our soul can have these experiences, to know certain things, to learn certain things. I feel like you thought that the skin to me represents the physical, right? So this is something about like you thought your body was going to be the answer, or you thought that your money was going to be the answer, or status. So whatever this was, it pierced the skin. It hit the skin. It hit the ego. What you think you are. Because I feel like whatever this tower moment, if you ran from this tower moment in the past, it's like you tried to build yourself up in some kind of way, some kind of ego identity where you're like, I'm this kind of person. And it had to do with this idea and concept of being the best. So you're like, if I'm the best in this way or that way, or in this field or that field, again, whatever arena of life this is playing out, then this feeling of insecurity will never be able to touch me again. And that is a covert contract that you made with, I think you thought you made it with God, or life. And wherever there's a covert contract, which you might want to look into if you're experiencing this tower moment to help you process it, wherever there's a covert contract, there's always a feeling of insecurity. And I'm telling you, that's really where this comes from. And you thought that it was going to be the answer. You thought that you could outrun it. And so whatever this chosen thing was that you were distracting with yourself, it was on the physical, okay? And I'm seeing like, it's like this insecurity is like a very hardy plant. I'm hearing it has legs, it grows, it can like move around. But I'm seeing you take mud and try to like spackle the mud over the plant. And then the plant will like grow through it. And then you're like, no. And then you try to spackle it over again. And then it grows through it again. And then you're like, no. And then you try to cover it again. And that's gone on for quite a period of time because I'm looking at this. It's like it's become this like mound or this volcano, which to me signifies time and pressure. And I'm hearing like the sunken cost fallacy, where you feel, I think that's part of the pain here as well, because you feel like you've invested a lot into whatever this was, because for some of you, like if this is, I just want to make sure that this is clear. Like this could be happening in any like arena of life, so you could have said, well, doctors and lawyers are better than everybody else. They get more money and more respect. So, I'm going to pursue this career field, and you've like sunk a lot of your time and your energy, and now it's like not working out for you, and the wrong people are drawn to you for the wrong reasons, etc. But this also could have been a love situation where you feel like you went after a certain kind of partner, and you've sunk a lot of time and energy in that relationship, right? Take this however it's resonating. But there's a lot of this like pressure buildup, and it's created the tower. That is the tower that I've seen, because tower is always like long-standing, brick by brick kind of energy that I feel like you've built up. And then this tower moment is the lightning strike just out of the blue from the divine that just knocks it all down. And there's been that tower moment here. You've seen something, there's been some kind of realization, and there's a part of your mind that, you feel extremely hurt because this hit you right where it hurts, but it hit you in an insecurity that you've been trying to outrun, that as it turns, you thought you'd outrun it. I think some of you thought you had dealt with it, like that you had overcome it and that you didn't feel that way anymore about yourself. But for others of you, it's like you thought that you had just buried it so far that it was never going to rear its ugly head. And then here it is. It's like surprise, popping out of the blue. And now you are face to face with it. And let me just tell you, don't run. Because you don't have to. You are strong enough to fix this. You are strong enough to look at this. But it's never going to go away. You have to neutralize this energy instead of making it an enemy, trying to compete, trying to destroy. That's not the energy that's going to solve this. You've got to neutralize it. Try to be your own best friend. Try to love yourself. Whatever this was that you thought, it feels very pull the rug kind of thing. I feel like this is trying to teach you, it's trying to point you somewhere deeper. Because whatever this was that you were doing, that you were, like trying to mud over, I think it does have this experience where you do know that it only works for a period of time, and then it wears off and you have to do it again. So for some of you, I just heard like alcohol or some kind of other drug addiction. For some, it could be like a shopping addiction where it's like, okay, you buy one thing and then you get that dopamine reaction, you're excited and you feel distracted, but just for a little bit, and then you got to go buy something else. It's something here like that, and it probably takes like the form of an addiction. And all addiction doesn't have to be to substances, but I think for some of you that could be somewhat involved here. But yeah, I feel like that's what this tower is. It's like, I don't know, it feels like you're kind of back to square one, but I'm hearing all of this is for you. This is actually pointing you to the path that's going to lead you to what endures, what is sustainable, what is actually going to fulfill you, because it's like whatever this was, you made it your middleman. And I just heard you made it your God, you made it your idol, for some of you, but you made it the middleman. And what I mean by a middleman is, if you notice in your own psyche, a lot of times we want happiness, right? That's what all of us want. And instead of saying, okay, God, I pray for my happiness and I'll look for it wherever it comes in and I'll try to allow that to steer my path, we say, okay, I'll be happy if I'm rich and if I'm famous and if I have this kind of person on my arm and if I have this kind of job and this kind of car. And we make that the middleman, and we say, okay, once I get that, I'm going to be happy, because of what you think that means for you. So you're not actually pursuing happiness directly. You're not actually pursuing love directly. You're not actually pursuing God directly. It's an idol. It's an in-between. It's a middleman. And then part of the learning experience is feeling shocked whenever you get it and it's not the answer. Or it's like the goalposts always move, or that thing doesn't want you back, or is can see the insecurity in you and is playing with it. Yeah, so there's something here like that. And I think, again, this tower moment was somehow ignited. That's the word, ignited, because it's not caused by it, but it was, and it's revealed by it, but it's more like ignited because it feels like it was always there. The truth was always there, but it got ignited by this presence of a third party competitor or some kind of comparison. You know, even if this is like in a, I feel like it's obvious the way that would happen in like a love or romance situation. But if this is like work or career, it's like, okay, so you built yourself up in some kind of career that you thought was going to be happiness, because if you became a doctor, then your parents are going to love you finally, and then you're going to be able to get all the things in life that you want. But you got that, you're not happy. Maybe you work in the same building as somebody who that really is what they're supposed to be doing. It's like they're on their proper path, and you're just seeing the difference in that energy. You're seeing them feel fulfilled, and you're seeing the real thing or something like. But I feel like it was this seed of like comparison or competition or something. And for those of you that did go down this route of, instead of dealing with the vulnerability of it and maybe taking some kind of direct action, and I don't know why I feel called to tell you this, because for some of you, it's like somebody here did like you back. You misunderstood something, you know, and you just needed to have a direct conversation about something here, and it would have cleared it up. And it doesn't have to be that you were going to be rejected, like, in order for this to be a lesson. Maybe for some of you, you needed to have a direct conversation, and somebody would be like, yeah, you know, I really like you in this way, but I just don't feel like it's right in this other way. Like it had to do with direct, right? But for those of you that, you know, went down this path of competition, it's, I don't know, because in competition you win or something. I don't know. But it's like the comparison that you got, you felt bested or outdone by a person who wasn't competing. Because when you compete, sometimes you win and sometimes you lose. But somebody here that you were confronted with, and this could be the same person from your past, but it doesn't have to be. Somebody here wasn't competing. And so they built a life. They built their happiness. They're not at odds with, you know, they weren't trying to win. And so everything in their life looks peaceful. And in a way they ended up winning, but they weren't trying to win. They weren't in that competitive mindset. And that goes back to the heart of being a human being and being a social creature, but also being an individual. Because as a social creature, you don't just want to compete with people. People hate you that way. And they want to tear you down. And you make more enemies than you do friends. That's very karmic. Think about going through life making a lot of enemies out of souls. Why have enemies when you can have friends? My husband always says that from the King Arthur movie. He loves that quote. Why have enemies when you can have friends? Because we're a social species, and that doesn't have to be threatening. It can be reassuring. You can, you know, hold someone's hair back when they're throwing up. You can go fetch the water for them. You can, you know, like, we are stronger together. That is the hidden story of humanity. I mean, we're a messed up species in a lot of ways, but we have the potential to be so beautiful to each other. If we look at our limitations and we just accept that. I accept that I'm limited. I accept that not everything is for me. How do I get along with other people? How do you play in the sand pit? Like, that's really what this is. It doesn't have to be a threatening thing. So that's the distinguish yourself versus trying to be competitive to distinguish yourself. Well, when you distinguish yourself, sometimes you can distinguish yourself just by being helpful with no strings attached, you know, and by pouring into somebody else. Like, there's some kind of lesson here where I think you're seeing that somebody has just been benevolent in some way. They don't have to be a Mother Teresa, but like, I'm just saying, you know, I think you're seeing somebody with a very cooperative attitude that is in some way in your eyes winning. It fits the definition of winning, but they never tried to win or anything. And I don't know how much you know about this person or you don't, but this person I think went through a long period of being the outcast, of not having money or comfort or status or love or something that honestly they deserved and they should have had by rights. And they went a long time without having it. And now, karmically, they are being given what they should have always been given. They're acknowledged in a way that they should have been. And it's a win for everybody. But I think that's the other thing you're supposed to notice is it's not just a win for them. It's a win for everybody. And some of you are being appreciated in this way or seen in this light, or that's like what's coming in because this energy is finally starting to tip. Like none of this was in vain. And this to me is Venus testing. That's what this is. This is some kind of spiritual trial to do with Venus testing, right? And Venus, just as a reminder, I'm always saying this on my channel, but it rules over harmony, cooperation, one-to-one relationships, being fair, making choices. It rules over your virtues, your values, and your principles. And it's well-rounded. And, you know, it's a trick of life that you don't have godlike intelligence. None of us do. And God knows what's best for us because God can see like what is well-rounded, and where a lot of times we are just very short-sighted. And again, all we can really do, or all our egos can really do, is pick out the middleman and say, okay, well, I think that's what's going to make me happy. But then you can't really consider your holistic happiness. So that's what this tower moment is meant to reveal. And really, truly, when you look at your life through the lens of a spirit, you're a spiritual being having a physical experience. And really, everything, I'm not an idiot. Like, I'm not saying not to chase things on the physical. Like, if you are struggling, if you can't afford food and a roof over your head, like, yeah, your life is going to be really hard. You know, I'm not trying to say that at all. I'm not trying to be naive in any way, but I'm saying if you can acknowledge that you are a spiritual being and that we preserve that as we move through and have our physical experience, first of all, maybe the way in which we structure ourselves socially would change and we wouldn't feel like we have to make so many compromises. Just throwing that out there, you know? But you get what I'm saying. It's look at this through the lens of the spiritual experience that you're having. Yes, this has really hit your ego in some way, somebody that you thought you were, a way that you were used to looking at yourself. If you went kind of the more competitive route, but it's the best thing that could have ever happened to you on a spiritual journey. And it's one of those spiritual paradoxes where it doesn't feel like that at first, but if you go down that road, it really, really is. So anyways, I feel like that's all I have for you. There's this tower energy that's coming through. It's shaking the foundations. It's and certain things are being revealed here as well. So if you were competitive and you pulled some kind of underhanded move to try to get someone and you thought enough time had gone by that they were never going to uncover what you did, that's all being uncovered now, you know? Because I think these competitive people, it was either something that they wanted to be or it's something that they wanted to be seen with. Power by proxy or power directly. It's one of the two. By the way, they thought that whatever this was going to be the answer, you know? So, and it was like for everything that somebody did here okay, so this is the last thing I'll say. So this, remember I said this ties into the concept of the best. So it's like for everything that somebody did here to try to be this concept of best, there's a difference here between what's best according to the group, right? And this is in some kind of hierarchical fashion, what society says, okay, this is the best versus what's best for you. Those are two different ways of kind of dealing with the best. And so somebody here could have tried to be the best in some kind of like societal way, and maybe because they thought that it was going to get them what they wanted. And for some, they wanted a person here that they were in love with, but they didn't consider like that maybe this person doesn't agree with society about what's the best, you know? So they weren't, and if they're soulmates, then them being the best version of themselves was actually going to make them more attractive to their soulmate. But they tried to be the best top of the hierarchy, and then it attracted some kind of karmic situation here that feels very deeply involved and very knotted up and connected to a lot of different sectors of their life. And so I'll just use this example. And so it's kind of like, okay, I want to be the best. So say that you go find a person that's going to appraise all the houses in your community to figure out which house is objectively worth the most, which one has the most luxurious items and materials, which one has the most square footage, costs the most, is in the most primo location. And so they come back to you and they say, okay, it's this house. And you're like, fine, done, because I want to have the best house, right? So you buy that house. And you move into that house, and it turns out it's not really your style. You know, maybe you like warm colors and like actually in your heart, if you're really honest with yourself, you like more cottage core. Like you like a smaller house that feels cozy and has warmer colors. But this house is huge, but it has a lot of marble and it's modern, sleek, and it's nice, but it feels cold and echoey, and that's not really your thing. And plus you have to walk 3 miles to get to the kitchen, and then you got to walk another mile to get back to the bathroom. And it's just, it doesn't really suit your lifestyle. So yeah, technically, I guess you've got the best house, and I'm sure people are, it's a marvel, you know, they're like, whoa, look at that house. Like, I wonder what it's like to live there, you know? But for you and your life, you're not really happy, you know? You wish that you had some of that time in the morning that you spent biking to your kitchen, you know, back to do other things that you like. It's not really the lifestyle, you know? Whereas if you just admitted, like, I just kind of want this small house, you know, it's easy to keep clean. Everything's, you know, not too far apart, and it makes me feel a certain way in my soul, and you just go after that, even though people aren't going to be like, wow, that's, I mean, some people will. A lot of people like a small, cozy house, you know? But yeah, it's because it links to the insecurity factor. And so I feel like somebody here could have gone after the best, and then they ended up in a life and in a situation somehow that it doesn't suit them, and they're confused about like why this wasn't the answer. But they're learning all these spiritual lessons about best and about insecurity and about distinguishing yourself and about how to be a human in the terms of like how you're a social creature that lives, you know, in a social group, but then you're also an individual and you have to distinguish yourself. And that's not the same thing as being competitive and being destructive. And somebody here, I think, confused that, or they got with somebody that confused that, and that person totally like annihilated them and just misread their attempts to distinguish themselves as an excuse to just be utterly destructive. So anyways, that's what I have for you. If that resonates, please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Bye guys.